Hey friends, welcome back. In this episode, we're going to do something a little different.
We've had a number of questions piling up in our YouTube, on our Facebook pages, so we're going to take a crack at answering as many of those as we can for you. Stick around.
Our first question comes from my cousin Robin. She asks for a full map of our travels and mileage to date.
Such an annoying little cousin. All right, I've pulled together a quick map here of some of our routes so far. You'll see a few episode highlights here as well. We get down to our NASCAR race in Bristol in episode 3, one of our very first stops. Then on through, after visiting my brother, on through Tennessee. You can check some of that out in episode 8, some of the music we hit there. Another favorite episode of mine was episode 12. We get down to Louisiana to visit the alligators. Carried on through Texas, and our most recent episode, we've probably got up at the time that we put this video up, was our visit to the cliff dwellings at Mesa Verde. And you'll see we're actually shooting this Q&A episode. We've made it through Las Vegas and into California at this point. And here's your total mileage, Robin, at this point.
Our next question comes from Richard, and he asks, how does that bike box attach to your van? We've had a lot of interest in this box. It's very unique. You don't see a lot of this type of bike box, especially in the west side. These are actually made in Drummondville, Quebec. They've been made for a number of years. It's a company called Como, so they're called the Como box. You will see a lot of these in Quebec and Eastern Ontario. He has not changed the design since, I think, the 80s, and so bikes have changed a lot. It is a bit challenging to put bikes in here now. Bikes are a lot bigger, but we have managed to put 2 full-size mountain bikes. We do take the front wheels off, so it's a little bit of a puzzle, but generally it works pretty good. And you can see we can fit a few other things in. We've got our helmets, we've got our bike shoes, we can put some stinky clothes in if we don't want them in the van bothering us. The bikes are secure. They're away from the elements, away from the rain and the dust, as well as nobody can see them, so they're not really sure that these are really expensive mountain bikes. Now for the real question that Richard asked is, how does the bike box attach? So it does attach to a 2-inch hitch receiver. So you can see here, we have actually added another piece of equipment. So what we have in the hitch is an item called a swing away. A few companies make this. And this allows for whatever you have, whatever bike rack you have, to swing away. And this way we get access to the back doors. So this is a super useful for us to have. Also useful when you have a hatchback or something like that. It makes it accessible. And that's it.
Our next question comes from my friend Hudson, who, by the way, is 5. At this point, you're almost 5.5. Gosh, you just keep getting older. But Hudson had a great question. He said, what was your favorite part of watching the race cars? Was it when the guy did the donuts? And that was pretty fun watching him do the donuts, even though it was Denny Hamlin. Hudson, I'd say my favorite part was getting to watch my favorite driver, number 5, Kyle Larson. Now, he didn't win the race, but he had a really good race. And I bought some souvenirs. I got a drink holder of the number 5. I got my number 5 hat, and so it was a lot of fun watching him, and it was a lot of fun. We got up real close and could watch his pit crew change his tires during the race. Now, I know, Hudson, you've watched me change my tires before. You know I'm really slow. You know that is the closest I'm ever going to get to being on Kyle Larson's pit crew, is watching them really close up. But that was really exciting, and we should try and get to a race together sometime. That'll be really fun. Great question.
I think my favorite part was actually walking the track. It's unbelievable how vertical those sides of that oval are, and that was pretty crazy to see that and then watch them race it. Our next question comes from our friend Ian. He asks, what did you think you would miss and you don't actually from home? And vice versa, what do you actually miss that you didn't expect to miss?
I didn't expect to miss my neighbors quite as much as I do. I knew I would miss my mountain bike pals. I knew I'd miss my bandmates. But I miss working out in the garage or working on the lawn, and I'm constantly interrupted by neighbors walking by, asking what I'm up to or shooting the breeze. And we had a really great party with our neighbors right before we left on this trip, and I do miss them. And I know some of them are watching this channel. Seriously, I miss you guys. I hope everything's well in the neighborhood.
And I think for the other half of the question, the things that I thought I would miss. I really thought I'd miss just chilling out in the evening, watching Netflix or Crave or TV in general. We do have a small TV in the van, but not always. We don't always have internet access. And we haven't watched hardly any TV or even any videos on the TV. And I haven't missed it at all. I mean, I don't think I need TV.
So next up, our friend Julie asked, have you seen many other vans like yours on the road? And have you seen any RVs that are really cool or really noteworthy?
First off, the friends we had met in earlier episodes, Eddie and Ginger, had a really cool custom van build on their Mercedes, and it was just perfectly suited them. It was really well done inside, and it was really unique. So I think that it's the custom builds that we found the most interesting, and everybody kind of does it to their need and their style. We ran into a couple sisters traveling from Alaska that had a really neat kind of van that fit them. So that's been kind of the most interesting. I think is just, that would be really interesting to have a custom kind of design.
Yeah, it's been fun having a little tour of a few of those, running into those folks, talking about what they built and how it suits them. The other types that we saw, yeah, we've seen some vans like ours. There's some Winnebago ones that are very similar build to ours. We've seen a number of those. When we got to sort of Zion and Vegas and the Grand Canyon, we saw a lot of rental RVs. So people, I guess the tendency is you fly into Vegas, you rent an RV, you go do the Grand Canyon and do a tour for a couple of weeks and roll back in. So there were quite a few rentals on the road as well, of various sizes. Some of those were vans, some of those were a little bit bigger RVs. So those are the other ones that we saw. The other crazy ones that we saw, one or two of these, and I think they're a European build, and they're these massive off-road capable RVs. I'm not even sure what you'd need it for around here, where you'd go with them, but they do look super cool. I'll try and find a link or a picture for you, and you can see what I mean by those, but they're just over the top.
They're almost like a tank slash Hummer. That's almost what they look like.
But that you sleep in.
Yeah, that's a camper. Yeah.
Over the top.
Another question we had from Richard was just what we use for tools, software, for doing our updates and documenting our trip.
This is not an efficient workflow, but I'll walk you through it just quick and show you some of how I do that. Okay, so step one of the process of making travel YouTubes is to take way too much video, take way too many photos, and we do that three ways. I use my phone. I've got a Google Pixel 7. That's what I'm shooting this piece of this video with right now. Holly has a Pixel 8 as well. So we shoot quite a bit there. When we're hiking or biking, I do have a GoPro. I think this is a Hero 10, and I just bought a clip for it that basically clips onto my backpack that I wear when I'm biking, so it's very easy to mount it here, very easy to hit the button and capture your biking videos with that. And then the third camera that we have is our dash cam that we installed in the van just before the trip. And so there's a button on it as well. If we're driving through somewhere really scenic, it's just a matter of reaching up and pressing the button. It'll preserve that video on the micro SD card. So step one, gather all that stuff together onto the laptop and get to work. Now, step two is to pour over all of that video and all of those photos for a given time block. If it's 3 or 4 days that we wanted to make an episode out of, often I'll have about 400 pictures and pieces of video to kind of comb through and look for the best stuff and figure out what the story is that we want to tell. What were the highlights that we really want to remember and really want to share with you in that episode? So we'll take a look through that stuff, and then we'll write up a little script for ourselves that you'll see in the intro, who's going to talk about what during the episode, and how do we fit this in 5 to 8 minutes. So once we've shot that piece, then we get into the main tool that we use for making our videos, which is actually a free piece of software on Windows called DaVinci Resolve. And I'd used different products from Adobe, from Sony over the years, but I thought maybe I'd try something newer. What were YouTubers using these days? And I stumbled across this one. It's an incredibly powerful piece of software. There are a ton of tutorials out there on YouTube of how to make great videos with it. As you can tell, I haven't watched a whole lot of them. Our videos are really simple and doesn't do the software justice, but a really cool free tool that we can then drag all the selected videos and photos that we want to put in an episode, pull those into the media pool in the software, and begin to lay those out in the timeline. And you can do no end of things with it. The basic stuff that I do is trim my clips, decide what order to put my clips in, transition between those, where do I want to put some text, or some of our statistics we put in some of our episodes. So we pull all that into that tool, adjust your audio, layer in some music, etc. So it's really straightforward to start doing your own YouTube channel if it interests you. Really, you just need a phone to shoot some video and some free software. It's super easy to publish it to YouTube straight from within that software. You can publish it right to your channel, and that's how it gets to you in the end. So it sounds kind of simple maybe as a workflow. I think the triaging especially takes a while because I just shoot so much video and take way too many photos. I'd be really curious to hear from any viewers that do video editing or into this even just as a hobby. What's your workflow? Do you have some suggestions how I could make it more efficient? Richard, I hope that was interesting for you, and I look forward to following your YouTube channel.
That about wraps it up for all the questions in this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We really enjoyed having the questions and having a bit of the interactivity.
We'd be happy to do this again too, so please, besides hitting like and subscribe, of course, do put more of your questions and comments below, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.